If you are an Indian student in the UK or planning to move from a student visa to a graduate route, there is an important change that you need to understand. The UK government has tightened rules around graduate dependents. Yes, under the updated rule, overseas spouses and children, they generally cannot simply be added after the main applicant has already switched from a student visa to the graduate route, until and unless they meet the specific requirement and were already dependent under the relevant student route. And yes, there is an important exception here. Children born in the UK to parents that are holding the graduate visa status, they now have a clearer route just to apply as dependents from inside the country under the updated rule. This distinction matters. Why? Because international families often make major life decisions during the period between graduation and finding long-term sponsorship. Well, for Indian families, this means immigration planning, it increasingly has to happen before a major visa transition. If you are moving from student status to graduate status, don't wait until the last moment to think about your spouse, your children, your future sponsorship option. Understand the rule before making any sort of decision about your family. Bringing family members to Britain, that is not easy. You have to follow all the rules and regulations. And yes, there is another issue too. The graduate route itself is facing broader changes now, with the government planning to reduce post-study work period for many graduates, while PhD graduates retain longer rights. For Indian students, this means the old strategy of study first, figure out the job later. It may no longer be enough. You may need to think about sponsorship, career option, and long-term immigration status much earlier. And yes, that brings us to the bigger picture, ladies and gentlemen, because whether we are talking about America or Britain, whether we are talking about H-1B workers or international students, whether we are talking about green card holders or NRI moving money home, one thing is absolutely clear. The era of easy migration, it is definitely changing, and staying updated, that should be your priority. If you are an NRI or an Indian family transferring a large amount of money from India to another country, this is a story that you should watch very closely. India's tax authorities are increasing scrutiny of outward foreign remittance, particularly transactions that appear suspicious or inconsistent with a person's financial record. The idea is very simple. If large amount of money are moving overseas, authorities want to know where that money came from, why is it being transferred, and whether the appropriate taxes and disclosures have been made or not. For genuine Indians who are living in America, Canada, or anywhere, this is becoming specifically important when money comes from property sales, inheritance, fixed deposit, or other Indian asset. Well, the key question is always source of the fund. The questions are, can you show where the money came from? Can your bank records support the transaction? Do your tax return match the information provided to the authorities? These are very important questions, by the way. And this is specifically important when an NRI is selling an inherited property in India and wants to transfer the proceeds abroad. Well, the transaction may involve property documentation, capital gains calculation, tax deduction, banking record, and remittance paperwork. A mismatch between these records, it can create unnecessary questions later on. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the cross-border money movement, it is becoming increasingly transparent because tax authorities in different countries, they now exchange more and more information. So if you're moving money between India and America, Britain, the UAE, or any other country on this planet Earth, don't treat the transaction like a simple bank transfer. The money may cross the border in seconds. The paperwork can follow it for years.